Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is lesson 722. Title of today's lesson is 10 common mistakes students make while reading, especially when they're reading naturally. None of these are pronunciation mistakes. That's a whole category in itself. These are ones where they're just naturally reading and they often stumble on these words and make mistakes with them. I have covered some of these other mistakes in other videos. I'll maybe in the description I'll leave some of the names of some of those videos, but I have some extra here as well. All right, here's the first one. He was a 25-year-old student. Now that is correct. That's the way it should be read. But when students make a mistake, they'll say he was a 25 years old student. They'll read it with an S, even though year, clearly there's no S the way it's written on the paper. They will read it with an S. I guess instinctively it's been ingrained in their head that, you know, it's plural, must be years, no matter what. No, when 25-year-old with the hyphen here, it's an adjective. Adjectives are always singular, so that's why it's not written or read with an S. All right, let's continue. Number 2, he climbed Mount Everest. So it should be read that way, like M-O-U-N-T, Mount. When students make a mistake, they always say he climbed Mountain Everest. They just assume that the MT must stand for mountain. No, mount is a word that tends to be used only in the names of some very high mountains, and it can't be used outside of it, outside of that situation at the same meaning. Mountain does have its own abbreviation, which is MTN also. All right. The third one, this is to do with Roman numerals. This is a big problem for a lot of ESL students, or even maybe some native English speakers if they've never, studied Roman numerals. Sometimes some of them will mess some of them up as well. All right, so here's how it should be read. King Henry the Eighth put several of his wives to death. All right, now when students make a mistake, they will probably say King Henry VIII. That's if they realize that this Roman numerals here is actually 8. Put several of his wives to death. But of course, when you read Roman numerals that follow a famous person's name, especially kings, queens, popes, and so on, you should read it with a the. So first of all, we say the, and then we also read it with ordinal numbers. We read it as first, second, third, not 1, 2, 3. So it should have been read as King Henry the Eighth, not King Henry VIII. Okay, third one. I read an article about health food. It should seem easy enough, but students often will read, I read an article about healthy food. All right, so what happens here? Again, clearly health is written correctly, but they will still read it as healthy. I guess maybe a lot of students just assume, well, it must be an adjective, so it must be pronounced with a Y. But no, a lot of times health, when it's combined with another word, becomes a noun phrase, as in health food is a noun phrase. So it is not healthy. Now, could some food be healthy? Of course it could. That is an adjective of health, but not in this case because it is a noun phrase. All right, let's go on. Number 5, he traveled around the globe several times, right? Again, that's the way it should be written. But students often read it as he traveled around the global several times. They see the E, I guess they think it's AL, or maybe they're used to hearing the word global as an adjective more often. I'm not 100% sure why they do this, but clearly globe is written and they often pronounce it as global. Okay. Number 6. All right, now with money. Money is another issue sometimes that could mess up ESL students. All right, this looks simple. It costs $2.50. That's the way it should be written. But sometimes students will say it costs $2.50 or $2.50. Yeah, in English, we don't read point with small money. We only read the points with big money. So you should read this as $2.50. But we can say, something costs like $7.4 million or $9.6 billion or something like that. All right, let's continue. Number 7, that amusement park is closed during the winter. All right, now this is with the abbreviation that is IE. And here we say IE November through March. Okay. A lot of students see IE and think that it stands for example. that's wrong. For example is e.g. It's a completely different one. I've done videos on that too. So you should not read it as for example. That's where students will make a mistake. I.e. can also be written as that, could be read as that is as well. All right, let's continue. Number 8. Again, to do with money. Again, it looks simple. He spent $585 US to buy it. Okay. But sometimes students will read, he spent US dollars 585 to buy it. Yeah. Of course, they're assuming because the symbol of the US dollar comes first, it should be read first. It should be read in order. No. The currency is usually read last. Only sometimes if there's small money like cents or something is that read last. But generally, we read currency last. So it should be read as 585 US dollars. Let's continue. Number 9. The character Black Widow first appeared in Iron Man 2 movie, or the Iron Man 2 movie. Again, this is to do with Roman numerals. So when it follows names, we read it with, famous people, we read it with ordinal numbers like first, second, third. But in other things like world wars or movies or products like, iPhone 10 or something like that, we read it as cardinal numbers. So here is making the reverse mistake. Okay. So maybe the student made the mistake. They say the character Black Widow first appeared in Iron Man 2nd movie, because sometimes they'll realize that we read it with ordinal numbers in some situations. All right, number 10. Now, of course, you should read it as he lived in the 1500s. So that's the way we say it. If they have like a 1300s, 1700s, and sometimes students get confused about this. They'll say he lived in the 1500s or something like that. No, we always say 1900s, 1800s, like that. Okay, if you like videos like this, check me out at Tutor Nick P. And I hope you got it. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.